Welcome back to Calling in the Dark, the show where I beckon you, the viewer, and my guest into the darkness to share some of the internet's most chilling stories. My name is Eric Towers, and with me I have my friend Kareem.
Hello.
And Kareem and I have known each other for quite a long time. And the story I picked out for today is one of the first ones I actually read out loud to him. This
Hopefully I
was
forgot it.
Yeah, this is the first CreepyPasta I've ever read as well. So a little nod to that, a little, I thought it'd be cool to kind of um go back to that. It was like roughly around like 8 years ago when we read it. So I think you've forgotten it, but I haven't. I This one is kind of a trip. So this is one of the OG creepypastas too. This is Squidward's suicide.
Oh,
So
I remember the title.
you remember the
It's,
title. All right, cool.
it's coming back. It's all coming back to me now that you said that. But let's go forward with this anyway.
Cool. Now that we got all that out of the way. I have one question for you though. Are you
Yes.
ready?
Yes.
All right, but all right, let's go. All right, so Squidward's suicide. I didn't say who wrote it, so I just wanted to start off by saying if you want an answer at the end, prepare to be disappointed. There just isn't one. I was an intern at Nickelodeon Studios for a year in 2005 for my degree in animation. It wasn't paid, of course. Most internships aren't, but it did have some perks beyond education. To adults, it might not seem like a big one, but most kids at the time would have shit themselves over it. I would too, honestly. Like just the opportunity to work at like Nick or Disney Channel, like not so much for like animation, but for like anything in general, I think it'd be pretty cool.
I would it definitely be cool to say that you did it at the
Yeah,
very least.
they'd probably treat you like poop, but I mean, I get treated like poop anyway at work, so I mean, worth it, worth it. Now,
Yep.
since I work directly with editors and animators, I got to view the new episodes days before they aired. I'll get right to it without giving too many unnecessary details. Something's a little sus there. Okay, so like he says he got to view the new episodes days before they aired, but most of the time they have the episodes prepped and ready like months in advance.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Or I don't know.
Well,
I actually not sure about the whole process of that.
I don't know if they'd have it all prepared months in advance, but they'd have like the storylines down and like the images and some of the audio.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, shows like South Park, they make in a week. They literally make one episode in a week and they just fucking drop it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a little sus. I don't exactly know how it works, but it sounds a little weird to me.
Yeah, I agree.
I get right. I'll get right to it without giving too many unnecessary details. They had very recently made the SpongeBob movie, and the entire staff was somewhat sapped of creativity. So it took them longer to start up the season, but the delay lasted longer for more upsetting reasons. There was a problem with the series 4 premiere that set everyone and everything back for several months. Me and two other interns were in the editing room along with the lead animators and sound editors for the final cut. We received the copy that was supposed to be Fear of a Krabby Patty and gathered around the screen to watch. Now, given that it isn't final yet, animators often put up a mock title card, sort of an inside joke for us, with phony, oftentimes lewd titles such as How Sex Doesn't Work instead of Rockabye Evolve when SpongeBob and Patrick adopt a sea scallop. Have you seen that episode?
Probably, but if I did, I forgot it.
Nah.
I wouldn't know it by the short description like that. I'd have to watch it.
It's like the episode where like that meme comes from, where like it has like the mountain of like diapers.
I mean, I'm sure I saw it at some point, but I'm not that well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing particularly funny, but work related chuckles. So when we saw the title card, Squidward's suicide, we didn't think it more than a morbid joke. One of the interns did a small throat laugh at it. What's a throat laugh? Can you describe a throat laugh? Like, I
I don't
remember
know.
this
I
part when
don't
I've
know
heard
what it
of
would
that.
be. I can imitate what I think it is.
Would it be like, like
Something like that.
yeah. The happy-go-lucky music plays is as normal. The story begins with Squidward practicing his clarinet. hitting a few sour notes like normal. We hear SpongeBob laughing outside, and Squidward stops, yelling at him to keep it down, as he has a concert that night that he needs to practice. SpongeBob says okay and goes to see Sandy with Patrick. The bubble splash screen comes up, and we see the ending of Squidward's concert. This is when things began to seem off. While playing, a few frames repeat themselves, but sound doesn't. At this point, sound is synced with the animation. So yes, this is not common. So while playing, a few frames repeat themselves, but the sound doesn't. So like it plays over and over, and it's like new sound. Interesting.
Kind of glitchy or something.
Yeah. That happens to me all the time on fucking YouTube videos. Like the video would just be paused, it'll be stuck on one frame, and then just the sound keeps going. I hate that.
It's happened to me before. Not a lot, but it happens sometimes on YouTube.
But when he stops playing, the sound finishes as if the skip never happened. There is a slight murmuring in the crowd before they begin to boo him. Not normal cartoon booing that is common in the show, but you can very clearly hear the malice in it. Squidward's in full frame and looks visibly afraid. The shot goes to the crowd with SpongeBob in the center frame, and he too is booing. Very much unlike him. That isn't the oddest thing, though. What is odd is that everyone has hyper-realistic eyes, very detailed, clearly not shots of real people's eyes, but something a bit more real than CGI. The pupils were red. Some of us looked at each other, obviously confused. But since we weren't the writers, we didn't question its appeal to children yet. The shot goes to Squidward sitting on the edge of his bed, looking very forlorn. Okay.
Forlorn is like, I think it means like sad, sort of, or like down.
Yeah, that's what I would assume. Yeah. The view out of his porthole window is of a night sky, so isn't very long after the concert. The unsettling part is at this point, there is no sound. Literally no sound. Not even the feedback from the speakers in the room. It's as if the speakers were turned off, though their status showed them to be working perfectly. He just sat there, blinking in this silence for about 30 seconds. Then he started to sob softly. He put his tentacles over his eyes and cried for a full minute or more. All the while, the sound in the background very slowly growing from nothing to barely audible. It sounded like a slight breeze through a forest. The screen slowly begins to zoom in on his face. By slow, I mean it's only noticeable if you look at the shot 10 seconds apart, side by side. His sobbing gets louder and more full of hurt and anger.
Wait. So the person saw it zooming in, but said it's only noticeable if you look at it 10 seconds apart, side by side.
Yeah. Huh.
That's a problem.
I think he's just like pointing it out. It's not like
he noticed
using
it,
an analogy. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's an animator, so you have to like kind of have a good eye for that kind of stuff.
Okay, we'll let that one fly.
That seems fine to me. That seems fine. We good. The screen twitches a bit. It's as if it twists on itself for a split second, then back to normal. The wind through the trees sound gets slowly louder and more severe, as if a storm is brewing somewhere. The eerie part is the sound, and Squidward's sobbing sounded real, as if the sound wasn't coming from the speakers, but as if the speakers were holes in the sound that was coming through the other side. As good as sound as the studio likes to have, they don't purchase the equipment to be that good to produce the sound, sound of that quality. How would you know? You're an animator. You're not a musician. Fuck out of here with that.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have a good imagination.
Yeah.
Which goes with being an animator, I guess.
I mean, but like, that's kind of the stuff that like us as musicians would like pick up on real fast, you know?
Yeah.
But to like notice that just like the sound quality is that high, like I don't know.
Or maybe they're a musician too. You never know.
Maybe. But all I know is like some people can't even tell the difference between like pickups or like, different tone woods and stuff, like,
Yeah.
it's like really noticeable for some
Don't talk
people.
about Tonewood on the internet, Eric. Don't be one of those people.
It's a big debate, goddamn. All right. Below the sound of the wind and sobbing, very faint, something sounded like laughing. It came at odd intervals and never lasted more than a second, so you had a hard time pinning it. We watched this show twice, so pardon me if things sound too specific, but I've had time to think about them. After 30 seconds of this, the screen blurred and twitched violently, and something flashed over the screen, as if a single frame was replaced. The lead animator, the lead animation editor paused and rewound frame by frame. And what we saw was horrible. Bro, I got chills reading this. I already know what's coming, but it's just like, All right, you ready?
I'm just slightly anticipating. I don't know. I'm still fine. I don't have any chills.
It takes a dark turn. It takes a dark turn. Just because I
I
know
can
what's
tell.
coming. All right,
I can
ready?
tell, but I'm not worried. Let's keep going.
All right. It was a still photo of a dead child. He couldn't have been more than 6. His face was mangled and bloodied, one eye dangling over his upturned face. Popped. He was naked down to his underwear, his stomach crudely cut open and his entrails laying beside him. He was laying on some pavement that was probably a road. The most unsettling part was that there was a shadow of the photographer. There was no crime tape, no evidence tags or markers, and the angle was completely off. For a shot designed to be evidence, it would seem the photographer was the person responsible for the child's death. We were of course mortified but pressed on, hoping that it was just some sick joke. The screen flipped back to Squidward, still sobbing louder than before, and half body in frame. There was now what appeared to be blood running down his face from his eyes. The blood was also done in a hyper-realistic style, looking as if you touched it, you'd get blood on your fingers. The
I'm
winds
concerned for the person that made this up.
Why? it
I mean, they're sitting there thinking about all this stuff, and it's just like, come on, that's what comes out of their imagination. I'm concerned for them.
a lot of people can go here. Like it's one thing to have these like wild, thoughts or whatever, but it's like another thing to act on them. I mean, I don't think we're the person like, I think everybody has these sorts of thoughts once in a while in the back of their mind.
Okay, but not everybody writes, like, I'm sure everyone has like stuff runs through their head, but not everyone writes it down as like, I'm going to publish this on the internet and claim that it's
You know
something
what?
I actually experienced.
I actually think that like nobody knows who wrote them. Like I think with most creepypastas, like nobody fucking knows who wrote these, especially the OG ones.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I clearly think this is all made up, but let's keep going.
Fuck man. I like this is the kind of story where it's just like, God, I really hope it's not real. But I also, how crazy would it be if it was real? Like I kind of like in the back of my mind want it to be real.
That would be very creepy. I mean, it would go along with like a lot of conspiracy theorists and stuff who would say like, oh, there's like evil people behind Nickelodeon or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
All right, let's keep going.
That could be fun to believe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
The wind sounded now as if it were that of a gale blowing through the forest. There were even snapping sounds of branches, the laughing, the deep baritone lasting longer at longer
Baritone.
intervals. Laughing a deep baritone lasting at longer intervals and coming more frequently. About after 20 seconds, the screen again twisted and showed a single frame photo. The editor was reluctant to go back. We all were, but he knew he had to. This time, the photo was that of what appeared to be a little girl, no older than the first child. She was laying on her stomach, her barrettes in a pool of blood next to her. Her left eye was too popped out and popped. Was popped out and popped. She was naked except for underpants. Her entrails were piled up on the floor above her, crude cut along her back. Against the body was on. God damn, this is like weirdly written. Her entrails were piled on top of her, above another crude cut along her back. Along the body was on a street. Oh, again, the body. I'm stupid. I can't read. So if you haven't noticed by now. Again, the
No, I
body was on the street and the photographer's shadow was visible, very similar in size and shape to the first. I had to choke back vomit. And one intern, only female in the room, the only female in the room ran out and the show resumed. Okay, so I read a lot of scary stories. I read a shit ton. I hear them at work all the time and like on podcasts and shit. And this is the one thing that irks me, right? So I understand people are squeamish at blood and stuff like that, or like but like anytime there's like a grisly like murder or like they're witness to like something like what we're seeing right now, right? Like they just like fight back their urge to puke, or they do puke their guts out. It's like you can't be that squeamish, it's not that's not real. Like if I saw that shit, I wouldn't, like, I would freak out, right? But I wouldn't throw
yeah.
up.
I mean, I've heard stories of like people throwing up at crime scenes and stuff on, like, I guess on television or whatever. But
Yeah,
I think it could happen.
it could
I'll say I'm
happen.
not skeptical of that. I believe that could happen, but I'm
No, but like
skeptical of the whole
I'm not
story.
skeptical of it happening. Like I know it happened, right? Especially if like you've never smelled like the smell of death, like a decomposed body, and like you're there and you witness the cream, like you throw up. Yeah, that sounds plausible, right? But like in every story where you witness some kind of gruesome murder, I can't believe that like everybody would throw up there.
I think the difference in this is that they're claiming they're watching a video.
Yeah.
So that makes it a lot less believable. So yeah, that's a good point that you made. If it was real, then yeah. I remember when like we had some rotting meat like that we accidentally left in the car trunk once.
Yeah.
I found it and almost threw up. But like that's a real life experience. It's not
Oh yeah.
a video.
Sometimes at work, like when I put on like the heavy like jackets that we have for the cold, sometimes the collar will go around my neck and I'll start like gagging, like ferociously gagging. But
Yeah.
I mean that's like a different thing.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe on the opposite side, right? Like it kind of says a lot about the person's like morality. It's just like they're so fucking disgusted by like what's going on here. It's just like, like
Still,
is a good person.
but I mean, have they never watched like a horror movie
True.
where they've seen terrible images?
Yeah.
Like most of us are more desensitized than that.
But it's just a
Anyway,
photo. It's literally just a photo
it's
in a
not even a
frame.
video. It's a
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
about 5 seconds after the second photo played, Squidward went silent, as did all sound. It was like when this scene started. He put his tentacles down and his eyes were now done in hyper realism like the others were in the beginning of this episode. They were bleeding, bloodshot, and pulsating. There's a lot of P's in this one. I'm just
Plosive.
plosive. He just stared at the screen as if watching the viewer. After about 10 seconds, he started sobbing, this time not covering his eyes. The sound was piercing and loud. The most fear inducing of all is his sobbing mixed with screams. Tears and blood were dripping down his face at a heavy rate. The wind sound came back, and so did the deep voiced laughing. This time, the still photo lasted for a good 5 frames. The animator was able to stop it on the fourth and backed up. This time, the photo was of a boy about the same age, but this time, the scene was different. His entrails were just being pulled out from a stomach wound by a large hand. His right eye popped, dangling, and blood trickling down it. The animator proceeded. It was hard to believe, but the next one was different, but we couldn't tell what. The animator proceeded. It was hard to believe, but the next one was different, but we couldn't tell what. He went on to the next. Same thing. He went back to the first and played them quicker, and I lost it. I vomited on the floor, the animating, the sound editors gasping at the screen. The next 5 frames were not as if they were 5 different photos. They were played out as if they were frames from a video. We saw the hand slowly lift out the guts. We saw the kid's eyes focused on it. We even saw 2 frames of the kids beginning to blink. The lead sound editor told us to stop. We had to call in the creator just to see this. Mr. Hillenberg arrived within about 15 minutes. He was so confused as to why he was called down there. So the editor just continued the episode. Once a few frames were shown, all screaming, all sound again stopped. Squidward was just staring at the viewer, full frame at the face for about 3 seconds. The shot quickly panned out, and that deep voice said, "Do it." And we see in Squidward's hands a shotgun. He immediately put the gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger. Realistic blood and brain matter splatters at the wall behind him and his bed. He flies back with the force. The last 5 seconds of the episode showed his body on the bed by his side, one eye dangling on what's left of his head above the floor, staring blankly at it. And then the episode ends. Mr. Hillenberg is obviously angry with this. He demanded to know what the hell was going on. Most people left the room at this point, so it was being just a handful of us to watch it again. Viewing the episode twice only served to imprint the entirety of it on my mind and cause me horrible nightmares. I'm sorry I stayed. The only theory we could think of was the file was edited by someone in the chain from the drawing studio to here. The CTO was called in to analyze when it happened. The analysis of the file did show it was edited over by new material. However, the timestamp of it was a mere 24 seconds before we began viewing it. So that's wild. This part always kind of like fucks with my mind. It's like, oh shit, like they sent it in to see if like somebody edited it, but like the time frame for when they did that was only 24 seconds before they watched it. Like that's pretty
So they're
insane.
claiming that it was like a supernatural editor or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That's it has this like layer of mystery and like the unexplained stuff that I love. It's
Yeah.
such a like
I
a
mean, I
it's a
mean,
small detail, but
yeah, I still don't believe any of it, but I mean that is a good twist to the story.
yeah.
It's a good imagination right there.
All the equipment involved was examined for foreign software and the hardware as well as glitches, as if the timestamp may have glitched and showed the wrong time, but everything checked out fine. We don't know what happened. To this day, nobody does. There was an investigation due to the nature of the photos, but nothing came of it. No child scene was identified, no clues were gathered from the data involved, nor physical clues in the photos. I never believed in the unexplainable phenomenon before, but now I have something, now that I've had something happen and can't prove anything about it beyond anecdotal evidence, I think twice about things. And that's the end of the story.
Interesting. What do they mean they think twice about things?
And just like,
Everything.
everything. Yeah.
They question everything now.
Yeah.
Makes
I mean,
sense.
I love it, man. I fucking love this story. Like sometimes I'll be at work and be like, I feel like listening to the narration of Squidward's suicide, so I'll do that. I
It's kind of terrible, but I mean,
it's
I
just
don't know.
so creepy. I love that feeling of just like being creeped and like freaked out and stuff. Like I have a weird feeling of paranoia right now. Like
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a lot of creepy mental images. It
oh yeah.
definitely puts you in a sort of creeped out. Like it gives you a weird mood. It's like I don't know how. Like I guess the thought process of the person was pretty creative. The writing itself wasn't that great, but it works. It's good. I mean,
Just
I wouldn't call it good, but it's well done
it's
in a
scary.
way.
It's
Yeah,
scary. I got spooked by it.
it's scary.
Yep.
I
And
agree.
and I kind of like in the back of my mind, I kind of wish it was real. It'd be fucked if it was, but
There was another story that I heard back in the day when I was a little kid. I just heard the story and I wanted it to be true. There was some show wherein I forget it was. I think it was played in Japan or something like that. It could have been
yeah.
another country. So, but it apparently a bunch of kids were like paralyzed and sent to the hospital from watching a characters' eyes light up.
Oh, I think you're talking about that Pokemon episode with Porygon. So they had a
Yeah,
bunch of
I
like
think that might have been it.
flashing lights and stuff, and a lot of kids got like epileptic seizures and stuff.
Okay.
And they banned it all over the world, and like nobody, you never see Porygon in the anime anymore because of that shit.
When I was a kid, like I didn't know about epileptic seizures or anything, so I was like, "Wow, this must have been like supernatural."
It's been the
or something
craziest
like
shit.
that.
There's another one that's similar and kind of similar to this story. It's about a lost episode of the show Ed, Edd and Eddie. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It was
I've
on
heard of it,
Cartoon
yeah.
Network. Yeah. So there's like this rumored like lost episode or like crazy shit or like stuff was just like out of whack with the episode, right?
Mhm.
And like everybody says, you know, the thing is fake or whatever, but I very clearly remember. I don't remember like the exact contents of the episode, but I remember there was an episode that I did see of Ed, Edd and Eddie where I literally watched the whole thing, and by the end of it, like my sister was like in the back. She wasn't really watching it, but she was like sitting on the couch, and I was like right there in the front where like the TV. And like I looked at her and I was like, dude, what the fuck was that? Like I was a small child. I don't know how old I was, but like I was young, but I was literally like, what the fuck was that? Like, you know? So I believe that Ed, Edd and Eddie one might be real because I swear that happened.
Yeah. I think that would be kind of interesting to look into, like weird lost episodes that are real, and like even
Yeah.
television commercials, because there are television commercials that I remember from when I was a kid that um I don't know if they would actually be shown on TV, but I remember
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Cool. All right. So that seems like a good place to stop the episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for Kareem. Thank you, Kareem, for being on the episode. Much appreciated. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share this video. We'll see you guys in the next one.